Hello, everyone. It is Friday. Woo-hoo. We needed to Friday. So anymore, because any given day I could think it's Friday. Any given day I can think it's Tuesday. I'm not really sure. My name is Kelly Baltzell. I'm the CEO of Beyond Indigo Pets. Today we have our delightful Mr. Will Lindus, Director of Operations. And Will and I kind of put our heads together and went, we kind of have a conversation piece here that we're kind of noticing, and it's called professionalism. And what is professionalism? How is it changing? Because it is. So we thought we would bring some of that up to all of you again. And this is kind of part of our Beyond Indigo tapestry. We're trying to look at the individual threads that weave the Beyond Indigo tapestry, because we've been doing this online thing for 23 years. So we're trying to help others who are just kind of getting into this whole work from home. A lot of us thought, well, not us, because we've always worked from home, so it doesn't really change. But maybe everybody else was thinking, yeah, we're going to get back to work on X, Y, and Z day, and then you didn't. So now what, right? So we're going to break it into two parts. I'm going to do kind of the internal locus of control for professionalism, and what does that mean? And then Will's going to explain what we have learned over the years for external, like how people view you through a camera for professionalism, and what we've kind of our learning curve, basically, some of our tips and things like that. So, Will, should I get started and do the internal stuff?
Take it away. I'm interested in hearing too.
You're like, Kelly, I work here, but I don't know this too.
Yeah, let's hear this. Yeah.
What is that? So kind of what we're noticing, or what we've already incorporated in Beyond Indigo, but other people have, is what is life and what is the value of a human, and where do you put your importance? So Beyond Indigo is a life forward company. That means that if life comes, like some life event happens, well, you should be embracing that and doing that versus saying, I have to do work first and put life second. There is a balance. Work actually does get done. And for all of you who like to micromanage employees, that's like when you take the micromanagement layer off, you get some amazing things, because humans, your employees, then feel like they're humans and they're respected and they're trusted. So what do we do at Beyond Indigo for that? Well, we've never gotten upset, really, if the kid has come on screen during a professional meeting. Why? Because that's part of life. If you just put your sound on mute for a minute and you talk, or you say, hey, everybody, this is my kid, say hello, this is part of my life, it makes you a more rounded person. It's more on how you roll with it. The dog barks. My dog loves the UPS guy. Not a big fan of FedEx. So if the FedEx guy comes, how he tells the difference, I don't know, and goes crazy, well, that's part of life too, right? Like, we should roll with it and learn to laugh, is what we've decided at Beyond Indigo, and not get angry or upset if an employee has some sort of life event that comes in. So how we handle the situation and how we treat the employee is more important to us than saying you just can't have it. It's not going to work, because this is our home. Work is now in our home. The employee is not in a workplace. And so you have to be respectful of that. So what is professionalism? Professionalism comes more from the inside out, how a person's behaved, how they treat a client, how they treat each other in a staff meeting, respect and trust. Those interactions become first versus, so it's kind of hard to describe, but you trust an individual to bring their best to the plate and act in the manner accordingly, and let other things slide for control. Now, with that said, we've kind of set up this sandbox of expectations of people. Like, there are some things that are just a no-go for us, because they're just, well, they're not professional and they're kind of tacky, right? So Will, explain the Beyond Indigo sandbox. What have we kind of learned about this whole work thing?
Absolutely, Kelly. And like you mentioned, a lot of people are now in this environment where they're now shifting to a virtual environment. You're working from home, you're working remotely, you're performing more telehealth duties as opposed to in-practice visits. And because of that, the way that you view professionalism and the way that you present professionalism has to adjust accordingly. I think gone are the days of come into my office, check out this several $1,000 desk. Here's me in my nicest suit and tie to present professionalism. Now we're in our kitchens, we're in our home offices, sometimes we're on our laptops in the bedroom, wherever it happens to be. So there are a couple of things that you can do to help make sure that you put your best foot forward when you're in some of those scenarios. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about some of the video elements, and then we'll talk about a few other elements after that. But the video elements do come with some photographic show and tell. So Kelly and I will be popping off the screen, and you'll be seeing a few examples of what I'm talking about as I'm talking about them. So here we go. And very first up, when we're talking about being on video for a web conference or for a presentation, what Kelly and I are doing right now over Facebook Live, you want to make sure that your camera is centered on you with your camera at roughly eye level. There's a lot of situations where your camera might be situated very low or very high, and so you're like, the camera's angled up your nose or like giving you a good shot of the top of the head. It's not the most professional in the world. So a very easy way to do it is just make sure that camera is roughly at eye level. This is a photograph that I was able to take of our COO, Jean Pelletier. She posed for this one. She has very good camera etiquette. But we've seen people who will come in and not be aware of where their camera is. And so all we can see is their ceiling and their foreheads. So,
but Will, it could get worse. We've seen body parts that we shouldn't be seeing because the camera's in the wrong place, right?
It does get worse. Absolutely. Because the flip side of that, absolutely. If your camera is at a high angle and angled down, you might be showing off a particular part of your body that you did not want to show off at that particular time. So I usually recommend get it centered, get that eye level thing going on, and do a test run beforehand. If you're not sure how it's going to look, your computer probably has some sort of like photo program, whether it be like Photo Booth or something like that. You can get a test run to feel about where to look in any video streaming platform. Now, of course, it's not just the angle that you have to worry about. You also have to worry about the lighting. So one of the things that we've seen, unfortunately too often, is the Blair Witch effect.
Yep.
So spooky. And a lot of that comes from the fact that when we're in our offices, maybe we have a nice window off to the side and we think that natural light is all that I need, because in our offices, we're adjusted to it. But camera lenses are very light sensitive, and they're also very dark sensitive too. So what that means is that a room that looks perfectly good to you will make you look like an absolute creep show if you don't do something about it. So what I generally recommend, you need some sort of lighting in your in your camera space. And I generally recommend that lighting be either overhead, so like a good like right above you is probably fine in a lot of situations. Or for best case scenario, you can go online and get a very cheap LED lamp. The one that I use is, I think I got it for like $14 on the internet. And just set it up in front of you, facing you, so that your face is getting all of the light, which you absolutely don't want. Worst case scenario you can do is to have just a window lighting you from behind, because then it will look like you were in the witness protection program. You will get to see the general shape of who you are, but none of the details. And again, when you're connecting with someone over the internet, face to face, we rely on those nonverbal cues. I need to be able to see that what I'm saying, that you're smiling or that you're frowning or that you raised your eyebrow, and vice versa. That's just how communication works. So anything that stands as a barrier to that hurts your message and hurts your image. Of course, it's not just the lighting either. You also have to be mindful of what you wear. So here's definitely a worst case scenario. Blurred and edited for everyone's convenience here. But we've seen this happen before where people have not been aware that their camera was on when they joined a bridge and they were, in shirtless or wearing just their pajamas or their undergarments or what have you. And then there's that moment of panic as they have to scramble to turn off their camera or put something over or just leave the bridge entirely. Obviously, That's not a good look, right?
And it's awkward for everybody because, you know, the watchers are like, oh my God, do they know? Do they know that? Like, this is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes then the whatever you were about to talk about. Let's go over those numbers. What's our ROI? Let's talk about that patient. Whatever it happens to be, that is no longer what anyone is taking away from that meeting. They're taking away the fact that so-and-so popped onto the bridge not wearing what they're supposed to. Now, that said, you don't have to go all out. You know, you can dress professionally by wearing something like it right now. I'm wearing a simple collared shirt. Very nice, very sharp, clean, pressed, that sort of thing. What I'm not wearing is a three-piece suit and a silk tie. There might be some environments where that is necessary, but for the most part, we all understand that probably beneath the camera we're in our pajamas or our shorts or whatever it is anyways. So putting on the airs of almost like high-end professionalism, it rings hollow. So just put on something clean, put on something nice. If you can even in some cases get away with wearing like a nice clean t-shirt. Just make sure that the print on it is something that is neutral or that reflects your brand well. You know, certainly you don't want to show up wearing a t-shirt like with cartoon characters or anything along those lines. But there's a nice happy middle ground. And usually for me, I default to a polo shirt. I think that works in a lot of situations. Mm-hmm. Now, I also have a couple of random things all put together into one collage of things to look out for. You'll notice in this image here, I have positioned my camera to where I am not face forward in it. I am at a corner of it instead of centered. What I've got is in my background, I've got a very distracting background behind me. I've got some dirty laundry hanging on the shelf. You can see way too many things going on back there. Oops, looks like I spilled some mail, and hey, the pup walked into the frame. Any one of these things by itself is not the end of the world, but they do have a compounding effect. And the more and more of those things that you have, the more and more that it distracts from your message. So what should you do? Well, let me pop back on screen here. And Kelly, you're popping back on too. Okay, so you'll notice here, I've got the light facing me. I've got a background that shows off who I am, but without being terribly distracting. I am appropriately addressed, and my eye line kind of runs right around where the eye line of the camera is. All things that I did in a quick couple-minute test run before I got on camera today, which I would recommend that you do either at the start of your day or before your meetings or before you do that presentation, whatever it happens to be. A couple of minutes saves you a lot of work after that. Now,
Zoom even does the preview if you're using Zoom and others. Like, this is what your camera looks like, people. Just take that moment, right? And just do okay, I'm good, right?
Mm-hmm. And that feature wasn't always there either. So no. It's a very nice feature, and take advantage of it. You know, even if it's just a simple, sometimes if you have an automatic focusing camera, you might be more zoomed in or further zoomed out than you were the last time you joined. So using that preview will just help you make sure, you know, maybe in your background, you forgot to take out those cardboard boxes. Well, now when you show up on screen, oh, they're there. Let me just move those real quick before I get on. Super easy. Takes a couple seconds to check yourself. And it's not just the video elements you should work on too. I don't have pictures of the next few things because they're not photographic elements, but you should definitely check your internet connection before you get onto any type of presentation. And if you happen to be in an area where you have spotty internet, that's okay. We understand we're all working from home. None of us has that business elite connection in our own kitchen. So what you can do though, there are certain elements on your computer which can drain, which can negatively impact your connectivity. So things like having a bunch of different tabs open, or having like a massive download going in the background, these things can hurt the visual elements and can make your voice come across as choppy. So if you have one of those situations, just close them out, get down to something a little bit more presentable, and sort of help out the connection elements. But if there is something that goes wrong, roll with it. We had, so we do these Facebook Lives. We are now 75 plus episodes deep, and we've learned from doing them that sometimes, the great spirits of the internet are very malicious gods. We've had it in the middle of a presentation. One of my favorite things that we've had happen was in the middle of a panel discussion. One of our social media analysts, in the middle of the discussion, his internet just died. He just popped out. And so he came back in a few moments later. And when he started talking about it, he acknowledged what had just happened. And it became we were talking about Beyond Indigo culture at that point anyway. And so it became a very good segue. He didn't try to cover it up. He didn't spend 20 minutes apologizing profusely. I think you can come back in after one of those things and just say, oh, hey, sorry about that, guys. My internet crapped out on me. Let's go. Let's move on. Something as simple as that is all you need. Audio. Kelly, you mentioned this at the very beginning. We work from homes. There's going to be things that are going to happen in the background. What I do recommend, if you know that you've got the pets and the kids and all of those at home, roll with it as best you can, but also carve out some time. This is time when I'm going to be on my calls. I'm going to keep my door closed. I'm going to keep, and that'll diminish most of the situations. I recommend having a good microphone, even if it's just a little headset microphone, that's plenty. And I do recommend that you keep your phone on silent or vibrate, because we don't want this guy going off in the middle of it. And speaking of phones, pay attention to what's happening. You shouldn't be in the middle of the meeting or in the middle of the discussion constantly checking up and down, looking at that phone, because everyone knows exactly what you're doing. And they also know that you're not focused and you're not here in the conversation. Pay attention, carve out the time, and resist the urge to check instant messages. If you have Slack or a chat program like that, it's very easy to feel like I can go over and work over there and answer that thing. And before long, you are no longer present in the meeting. You are off somewhere else. We as human beings, we always talk about I'm a really good multitasker, but study after study shows that most human beings cannot multitask. You're really good at one thing at a time. So allow yourself to be good at that one thing. And right now it's talking to that patient, talking to that potential customer, talking to your team members, whoever it is. Be present, be in the moment, and the other things you can get to afterwards.
Totally. Thank you, Will. All of that's really important. And just take a moment as you're crafting your environment. I mean, because we've all done that to now, so why are we doing this now? What is professionalism? Well, because a lot of people thought this was going to end, and it's not ending. And so now you're having to just not make do, right? We're all having now to not us Beyond Indigo, but other people who are normally work at home people. Now you're well, I got to make something a little bit more permanent or a little bit easier on my lifestyle versus just pitch hitting for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Now this is becoming longer than those time periods. So how can you make this not so stressful on you? And then also, not also, but I think it starts from inside you. You start with what you want to be and describe yourself as professional, and be okay being you. Let your own personality shine. And like Will said, make eye contact and really treat, from one human being to another with understanding. But once you decide who you are and who you want to present yourself online, then take Will's tips and make some external adjustments to reflect those internal perceptions that you want to give to people. We found out it really works, right? And then you just stop thinking about it because your space is done. Then you just don't do a little quick check, then you're okay, done. I don't have to redefine every single day,
And it helps you build ritual, and it helps you build consistency. You might be used to, I don't have to worry about those elements because I know how I look when someone walks in that door and sits across the table from me. And so there's a bit of an internal stress, I don't have control over that. Now I'm on the camera, what happens? But if you do all of these steps and sort of check yourself in advance, it's one less thing that you have to stress about, especially as you mentioned, Kelly, as people are turning their temporary homework offices into long-term or more permanent homework offices. Just a little bit of prep work will go a long way.
I agree. So that's what we got for people today, Will, right? So hopefully it helps a few of you out there and you kind of figure, get a little bit of our learning curve. Laugh when you can, when moments happen. I don't think we have enough laughter right now in our lives, so laugh and find joy in your space, because you're in it a lot. So you might as well kind of enjoy your space and make it something you feel empowered and good about yourself. And as we come up with other ideas, we'll bring them to you. But thank you so much today and have a great weekend.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.